Hi, romance readers. I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. In celebration of the Halloween holiday, I am joined by paranormal romance authors ANN AGUIRRE, Juliette Cross, Rosanna Leo, and Celestine Martin. The group chats about their recent releases and discuss paranormal romance reading and publishing trends. And the authors and I play Match Game, Paranormal Romance Edition. Enjoy, and be sure to like and subscribe. Hello, authors. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Excited to be here.
Excited to be in your company. I am going to start with an icebreaker. I'd love to know, what is your favorite Halloween costume that you have worn? Rosanna, what is your favorite Halloween costume that you ever wore?
Thank you for asking. As soon as you said that, I got a flutter of excitement because I was so excited. I'm so geeky about this costume. It was one I did a few years ago for a work function, and there was a prize involved, and I became extremely competitive. So I did my entire cubicle as a homage to the Titanic, and I came as a Titanic victim. It was really fun. I looked up how to do it online. It was super easy. It was all clothing I had, just a little jacket and a little Victorian jewelry and stuff, and came in with wet hair, a gray face, seaweed in my hair, and the crowning achievement was a great big buoy around my head that said HMS Titanic.
Oh my God.
I won the prize. I was so excited.
I would say so. Oh my God. Now, are you a Titanic geek? Like, you've seen the exhibits that they have that tour throughout the country and you're into the history of it? And
a little bit. I wouldn't say it's like my forte, but yeah, I have seen a couple of the exhibits. There's a great one in Halifax, Nova Scotia at their Maritime Museum. They have a lot of artifacts from the Titanic, and because Halifax was the city that received a lot of the Titanic dead at their morgue, it's extremely eerie. So if you're into that sort of thing, you have to go to Halifax.
Wow. Celestine, favorite Halloween costume that you've ever worn?
Oh, I was young. I was a playing card. was literally, I was like the Ace of Hearts.
Okay.
Yeah, and I loved it, and I wore it like at all functions, just trying to repeat it all over again. I was like, went to a costume party, went to school. I wore it out until I literally broke the card into pieces. I loved it so much. That was one of my favorite costumes. I don't know. I've been trying to get that high ever since, every Halloween, but it's like I don't feel like finding a costume, unfortunately.
So now, is that something that was homemade? Did you make it? Did a parent make it?
Oh, no. My mother bought it.
Really?
My mother bought it, and it was awesome. It was foam. So it was paper, so it was fine. But of course, like, I kept wearing it so much that it just broke apart and we couldn't fix it. And I was sad. I was, I'll use it every year. And that didn't work.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Let's see. Juliette, favorite Halloween costume you ever wore?
I think I'm going to have to go with, a couple of years ago, I found this really cool steampunk costume, and it came with like all the accessories, like a little miniature hat and like, the fingerless gloves and like all the little things. And I just felt like a cool badass, and like to feel that way at this age is like always good. And I love that genre. Like, I love like Beck McMaster's steampunk books are so cool and fun. And so the costume was just really awesome. I've kept it. I'm hoping to wear it again at some point in the future.
And favorite Halloween costume that you ever wore?
I would have to say, rather unoriginally, that I really like being a witch.
Okay. Was it a particular witch?
It was just the typical all black, black nails.
Okay. Gotcha. Witch. All right. Hey, listen, classics never get old. They never die. Why do you write paranormal romance stories? Okay. I've come up with some possible reasons why, and you tell me which apply. Okay. A, creative freedom afforded by the suspension of disbelief. B, the thrill of world building. C, to achieve the real life goals and to satisfy your real life desires vicariously through your paranormal characters. D, your stories are actually autobiographical, but you pretend to be a mere human. E, all of the above. F, none of the above. Or G, other. Would you like?
That was an easy question.
I gave you answers to choose.
Yeah, I have an answer because I know when you said A and B, those are my number ones. I mean, probably a little bit of all of that, but for me, world building is my favorite thing. Like, there's nothing more exciting, and the other authors can probably agree, when you're starting a brand new series in a brand new world, and it's like a fun kind of problem solving. Like, okay, how am I going to make him do this, or what kind of power is he going to have, and is that going to cancel out this? You know, and I love that part. I love that part of just like letting my imagination go and not having any limits. You know,
right?
And that's what I find because I've written some contemporary and I find it so constricting. I don't like it as much because it's like, you know, no vampires can jump out and save the day or kill the victim or whatever, you know, like, so that's for me.
So world building and the creative freedom afforded by the suspension of disbelief, which is greater in paranormal than I would say in contemporary. Now, do you find that to be a double-edged sword where, okay, I've got this suspension of disbelief that works to my advantage, but I can't go too far with stretching it because then people are going to be like, oh, no, this is too unbelievable.
Right.
So do you find, and I'll ask this of each of you who also agree that, you know, that's part of the appeal, but do you find a challenge with striking that balance?
Yes, I do. But that's what I think I enjoy. Like, I enjoy that aspect of problem solving and figuring out, okay, yes, it's, you know, like I'm writing my first Fae world right now. And you know, this is kind of new for me. It's a new genre for me. It's more high fantasy than paranormal. And so just like figuring out, you know, the layout of the world and the rules of the world. And it's, to me, that's way more exciting than just, you know, following the road of reality. I guess maybe I've always just been that kid, you know, when I was younger, who was always off in my imagination. And so I just feel like writing paranormal and fantasy is the best of all the worlds, you know, writing and creating and delving into something that doesn't exist and making it as real as I possibly can for the reader. Excellent.
See, that's not so hard, Celestine. Should I ask you next or should I leave you for last?
You can ask me next.
Okay, Celestine.
Say E, all of the above. A little bit from column A, B, C, D, all of them.
Oh, so you're also these are autobiographical stories and you're pretending to be a mere human.
Well, I will say I was inspired from my family history because apparently, my great grandmother could see ghosts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, on my mother's side, we have a strong sense of intuition. So it's just like little stories and legends that I've heard, or family lore that I've heard, that I'm like, oh, let me put it into my book. So I will say that. I mean, world building, absolutely. I love building worlds. I feel like I'm like playing with a new Lego set. And I was like, yay, the directions make sense. That's how I feel. Whenever I'm writing. And that creative freedom, right? You know, I've tried to write contemporary. I'm going to have to I can't sneak in a magic spell. I can't sneak in a love potion here. Like, oh no. So I get what my fellow panel mate is saying, because that's where it comes in. We have that freedom. You just get to play. I love being a paranormal writer, especially like paranormal, where it's just like, I'm going to get my coffee. Oh no, there's a gargoyle.
Exactly.
Right? And so, I hate when that happens, by the way.
But they're nice. They're nice.
So annoying.
So I feel like that's why I was just like, that was easy, because I could take one from each.
Okay.
Makes sense.
How about achieving your real life goals and satisfying your real life desires vicariously through your paranormal characters. How often does a situation maybe arise in your life and you're like, geez, if only I had this magical power, or if I knew this magical being, and you're like, oh, well, I'll just write a story in which all of those, my dreams can come true on the page. Like, does that play?
It does, because I wish I could meet a gargoyle. I
know.
would love it. And he's like, let's just hang out together and look over the city, do something fun. I would love that. Like, there's definitely living through it. And like, I wish that all this cool stuff could happen. I wish, magic was real. I wish that I could, a little bit witchy, my crystals would actually work, give me a couple of prosperity points.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Awesome. You see, that was a great answer. And you thought that was a hard question. Anne, what answers apply to you?
I would say the world building for sure, but also G, because
other, okay,
it's something else. And paranormal is just hot. And you can do a lot of really hot stuff that doesn't fly as easily in a contemporary. Because, like, for example, if you're writing vampires and
I knew you were going to say that.
Play in, that totally makes sense. But if you're writing a straight contemporary, it's a little bit edgier if they're not actually vampires and blood play is what floats their boat. I feel like that's, right. I mean, I'm sure there are people who write it, but I would feel a little odd doing it in a straight contemporary.
Right.
I think that's probably a harder edge than I would write. So you could do a lot of really hot stuff that makes sense contextually or culturally for your paranormal characters, but it would be a lot more difficult to execute if it wasn't a paranormal.
Right. Good answer. I'm glad you chose other. I was hoping someone would choose other and pick something that I didn't, that I might not have been expecting. Let's see. Oh, that leaves Rosanna. So what applies to you, Rosanna?
Well, I'm going to make your day and give you another other as well.
Oh,
a lot of your earlier answers they did apply to me as well, but like Anne, for me, it's an other situation, and I think it's just because I'm a weirdo at heart, and I've always been a weirdo. I'm the little girl who tried to get to Narnia through her cramped closet, and it never worked, and I'm still extremely bitter. And so, yeah, like Celestine said, I want to believe to some extent that magic is possible. And I think I've just always been into the paranormal and stories of these tragic moments in history, and being able to take some of that and use that in my stories. I think one of the first things I remember reading is about how Henry VIII cut his wives' heads off, and how the ghosts came out of that, and all these haunted castles and all of that stuff. Like, I was reading that as a kid.
Yeah.
So that kind of weirdness needs an outlet. And
yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about your most recent releases. And your most recent release, The Only Purple House in Town. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what I would call a cozy romance. It has limited spice, so it's perfectly safe to give to your great auntie or the church lady who brings you soup when you're sick. And it is a slow burn, and there's a lot of pining. The hero falls first. He's had a crush on the heroine for a really long time, and through a series of sort of chaotic events, they end up as housemates. And the heroine is what I call a chaos bunny. She always means to do really well, but somehow everything she tries always falls apart. Mm-hmm. She's the only one in her family who's not successful. She feels very much like a square peg in a round hole, and she can't find her place in the world. When she unexpectedly inherits a ramshackle Victorian house from a distant relative, she thinks that at least now I have a place that's mine. But then, like, her idea for a bed and breakfast falls through, as all of her ideas do. So she ends up renting rooms like a Victorian spinster to make ends meet. And it's a very sweet found family story about finding your place in the world and finding people who love you as you are.
And I understand that some of the boarders at the Purple House are otherworldly, supernatural. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Not all of the residents are human. Iris is not. Eli is not. Mira is not. I can't really say more than that without a lot of spoilers, though.
That's
so
fine.
There's a lot of good stuff that people should dig in to find out for themselves and really enjoy the journey and the surprises.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that. Rosanna, you had 2 books in your Dark Paranormal Investigation series come out pretty much a couple of months from each other. Dark Passion in March of 2023 and Dark Music May. So tell us about the Dark Paranormal Investigation series.
It's been a really fun series to write. It's the paranormal creatures and these ones are ghosts. And there are 3 books because there are 3 sister protagonists. The Dark Sisters, Edwina, Adelaide, and Susanna, and they're paranormal investigators in the Toronto area. So each of the books is features a real life haunted Canadian location that I've sort of adapted for the story. The first one is set in a haunted Niagara-on-the-Lake B&B in wine country here in Ontario. The second one is in a haunted opera school in Toronto, which is a real music school that I attended when I was younger. And the third one is going to be in the neighborhood of Cabbagetown, which is one of the really old neighborhoods of Toronto, has creepy cemeteries, old homes, museums, that kind of thing. And basically, as far as the 3 women who are running these investigations, they're sisters and their relationship was really fun to write. Edwina is the eldest sister. She's a tech expert and she's the real ballsy one. She's not afraid of anything. She'll run into a haunted house, no problem. Middle sister Susanna is the historian of the group. So she provides a lot of really interesting historical context. And the baby sister, Adelaide, is the psychic medium of the group. So she's seen dead people all her life, and her sisters have had to live with that just as much as she has. So she, of course, brings that perspective to each of the books. And it's been really fun. It's all based on locations that I've been to and that I know really well, and it's just been so enjoyable getting the Dark Sisters out into the world.
Yeah, very cool. To prepare for writing the series, have you visited a lot of or attended a lot of ghost tours in your area, or spoke to anyone who's a medium? Or
absolutely, I go to ghost tours any city I go to for sure. That's the first thing my husband and I will do is, where's the ghost tour? We're there. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually had the opportunity to go and stay at the B&B in Niagara-on-the-Lake that the first book is based on. It was a real historic location. It's got history from the War of 1812. A star-crossed romance is the real life, ghost story behind this B&B, featuring a British soldier and the lady love he left behind. And so I've sort of taken that story and made that the basis of my ghost story. And then, of course, the Dark Sisters have to figure out why is this property still being haunted, and how do we bring some sort of peace to these lost souls.
Okay. Would you describe the romance as sexy or steamy? Like what do you got going on there? Okay.
Yeah. Open door. I like it open door. So yeah, it's at least in this series. Yeah, absolutely. It's sexy stuff as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Celestine, Kiss and Spell in your Elemental Love series. Celestine, can you tell us about Kiss and Spell?
Yes. Kiss and Spell is the second book in my Elemental Love series. We follow our hero, Ursula Caraway. She's in need of a serious fairy godmother, after the last 9 months that she had. Like, we start off the story, she's broke. She's estranged from her magical family, and she's looking to reclaim her former boss witch life. And so she swears off fairy tales. She makes a list that's going to get her back her success. And of course, the moment she makes the list, she meets Xavier, our Fae prince, who is looking for the perfect kiss to, basically take off the enchantment on his head. So it's a little bit of my Jersey Shore fairy tale. So you have the two of them pining and yearning and wanting each other, but not being scared of hurting each other. So that's where we have Kiss and Spell. It's like pining, sparks, fairy godmother, being a matchmaker. I love it. Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you, have you ever tried to perform a spell or create a spell, or have you dabbled in anything like that?
I am more of like, let me put out my crystals when there's a good moon. And then I have crystal bracelets. I have physical crystals. I have a luck jar, so that I do that more than anything else. So once they're charged up, I put them on. I have positive thoughts, positive energy. That's kind of like my thing that I like to do personally. Right. Spells, I don't know. It's a little tricky, right? Because if you substitute the basil for the oregano, something goes crazy. So I haven't done spells since I was like a teenager. But I understand the need for it. Like, the lotto's like $1 billion today. Maybe if I do something with some of these bay leaves, burn them, rub them on my wallet. I don't know.
Okay. Juliette, you have, let's see, Grim and Barrett is book 6 in Stay a Spell, which just recently came out in May. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, yeah. So Grim and Barrett is book 6, and Clara is the youngest of the Savoy sisters. The whole Stay a Spell series is about these 6 witch sisters who live in New Orleans in the Lower Garden District. And which I don't know if any of you have been to New Orleans. Everybody kind of thinks of the French Quarter, but the Lower Garden District is very residential. It feels kind of Parisian, bohemian neighborhood. It's a really cool place if you ever get to go. And also the best haunted tours, Rosanna, just saying. I bet. I've been to several. The pub crawl one, excellent. Highly recommend.
Excellent. Really.
But Grim and Barrett, so we have each of the Savoy sisters ends up with a paranormal man, and Clara's guy is Henry, and he's a Grim Reaper. So in my world, the Grims have different powers. Henry happens to be a necromancer, and he can open portals and go into the land of the dead and bring back spirits. And so we have a murder mystery that takes place, and she is essentially an empath. She's an aura witch, which is the power of an empath, but she can also give what I call joy spells to people who need them. And Henry is a very grumpy, tattooed Grim Reaper, and she's my sunshine, witch. So we definitely have the grumpy sunshine thing going. And they've actually been pining after each other in the background of all the first 5 books. So this was the one, like, all the readers were like, my God, give us Clara and Henry, like, here they are. So it is very open door, very spicy. We have some library ladder play, lots of fun little scenes. And I think it rounds out the series well, because it's so hard ending a series, which I know others can say it's so hard, that last book, to make it like to feel satisfying. Right. So I did have a couple of, like, more than one epilogue. One's like kind of sort of in the future, and one's like far into the future, so you can kind of see what happened to all the Savoy couples and sisters, and how they're doing, in the end. So I'm really happy with the way it came out. And yeah. And then I start the spinoff next year.
Excellent. Now, did you say library ladder play?
Yeah, or scene, I should say.
Okay, so are you talking about having sex on a library ladder?
A kind of sex, yes. Oral, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if I understood correctly, because that's
no, you're right.
I was like, wait, maybe this is something else. I don't know. Oh, now that's interesting. Is that something that you have? Is that like a trope of sorts that you have claimed, that you created and you claim?
No,
sex on a library ladder.
So I know for me, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of authors, sometimes, do you know when there's like a scene that gets in your head and it just like sticks in your head till you can write it, and it just kind of like becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, you know? And so this was that scene, you know. I was like,
okay.
I cannot wait till I get to write the library ladder scene. Because there are certain things that are said between them two that are, to me, like really kind of hot. And then of course it goes there, you know. But it begins with this gesture. He's showing her his big library, you know, as a way to impress her, you know. A little of Beauty and the Beast sort of thing, you know.
Got it. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I that's interesting. Yeah. Now I'd like to stay with you, Juliette, being you were the first to answer about world building, because I'd like to kind of go into that direction now. How do you approach paranormal world building? So do you write a Bible at the start of a series and it's like, you know, has all the characters, has, you know, every plot conceivable? Do you draw maps? You know, do you have Pinterest boards that you get, like, what is your approach look like?
So yeah, so for Stay a Spell, I thought about the witches, because I have 6 sisters and there's 6 kinds of witches. I know I'm very symmetrical. I like everything to sort of fall into line. I know it's kind of whatever, convenient. But and so I spent probably a long time thinking about those powers, and they changed, you know, and then what kind of hero would fit them best, would make a more interesting story, would, you know, kind of lend itself to them helping each other in some way. Because I always like when we have a couple who's not just like falling in love, but they fall in love for a reason, because there's some kind of connection that goes beyond just like, you know, obviously the physical or whatever. Right. And so usually it's some kind of tenderness of the magic that happens between them. And so that's what I'm kind of looking for. So for me, I definitely have a long list. And I know y'all don't even laugh at me, but I recently discovered Scrivener. I know it's been around forever, but I'm a stubborn ass and have refused to even try it for years. And when I started this Fae world, I realized I needed lots of tabs to like be able to go back and look. And it's like, oh my God, it's so amazing. Like, why wasn't I doing this before? I could have used it so much on Stay a Spell. So Scrivener helps. It's like, that's the kind of like, you know, sticky note, you know, folder. Yeah. So you can say, so I have like characters here, world here. And I do like maps. I mean, not for Stay a Spell for urban settings, but definitely for larger worlds, you know.
Sure. Nice. Let's see, Anne. So what is your approach to world building?
I usually start with characters and then I build the world around them. And it is driven by the story. I have certain questions that I start every book with. And the questions that I start with are, who are they? What do they want? And why can't they have it? Right. And everything begins from that point. Sometimes the world is developed to complicate their life or add obstacles to their situation. In the Fix It Witches series, for example, we had the witches in hiding and their powers were not on display for normal humans to see. And it was essentially like a secret society. And they had different reasons why they would meet with their coven. In St. Clair, they had a book club, and they were just constantly discouraging normal humans from joining because, you know, they did talk about books, but they also did magic and like drink wine, talk about a book, and then cast some group spells. So that was an example of world building being their obstacle, because the heroine came from a very traditional witch family who felt that she should marry another witch, but she fell for a normal human baker, and he's an absolute cinnamon roll who makes cinnamon rolls.
Nice.
So that was their forbidden love, and that became part of the overarching plot in order to get the witches out into the open and all the other paranormal communities as well. So everything starts for me with character, But in terms of like the technical how-to, like what tools I use, I do character dossiers online where I put all the information. Like if I casually refer to someone having a sibling, then I have to add it in the dossier because otherwise I will have to go back through to a prior volume and be like, okay, they had a sibling. What did I name them? How old is the sibling?
Right.
I will just include all of that information in the dossier.
Yeah.
And I do make notes about how does magic function in this particular world.
Yeah.
Just using the Fix-It Witches for an example, it is a low magic system. There's no fireballs. It's more like charms and enchantments.
Got it.
Yeah. It is possible to get some powerful effects depending on the spell, but it takes a long time. It takes preparation. It's not like a point and shoot and 4 buildings explode type of thing.
Right.
So I had to make sure all the rules are internally consistent. And I guess I would say what I've learned most when I was first starting out, I would sometimes just include like a random thing that seemed really cool in book 1. And then in book 4, this is a huge impediment. And now I have to think of a reason, like, how am I going to get around this thing that I dropped in book 1 and it's now a problem in book 4 and I can't retcon it. I have to make it work with my story. But I really wish I had thought this through a little bit better. I definitely spend more time thinking about how all the moving pieces will fit together and how it'll affect things long-term story-wise.
Yeah.
But you learn as you go.
Celestine, what is your approach to world building?
Pinterest.
Pinterest. Okay. Is that it? That's the answer next?
Like, no, oh my goodness. I start with Pinterest. I start with images that interest me. Like each one of my books and my characters have a Pinterest page that is like connected to them. So if I see images connected to them, like, you know, with Ursula, a lot of crystals, a lot of plant parent type of stuff in her Pinterest board. And then from that, I start getting what's her goal, motivation, conflict, and also what's connected to her love interest. So he's a fae, right? Xavier's a fae. So because he's a fae, I'm going to have a lot of flowers, a lot of greenery, a lot of like, you know, ears that are really cool or wings. And so that's where I start to like getting those images helps me start to think of things, and, answering the question of what if.
Right.
And then I go to paper and index cards. Oh my gosh, the amount of index cards I have.
Do you highlight the index cards in color-coded
I do. I have them on a ring like a janitor. It's like I have a punch, old school punch. There's my mom's retired kindergarten teacher. So she's like, do a punch, hold, and keep going. And
I love that. Yeah.
Oh, so I collect them because I'll keep like index cards in my purse and I'll get an idea and I'll write it down and I hole punch it and then put it on my ring of index cards. And so that's how it works because I'm a very tactile person, because if it's digital, I will write it and then forget about it. And then 4 months later, I'm like, oh, that's where that scene was. And so just like Anne, I keep track of my characters, index cards. Okay, he has a sister. The sister is this. What does she do? Because I had that issue with, because my first book, Wishful Thinking, there was a big in Kiss and Spell. There's an event that happens in Kiss and Spell that I didn't mention in Wishful Thinking. So I'm like, how do I explain this event that's going to take down the whole town? I'm like, well, it wasn't mentioned in Wishful Thinking, but eventually my brain got it together and I was able to like, okay, I have a reasonable explanation. Right. And so I managed to do that, but that came from Pinterest, a lot of Pinterest images. So
interesting
about that.
I love the idea of you having the index cards like the janitor's set of keys. Yeah, I like that. Rosanna, what is your approach to paranormal world building in the Dark Paranormal Investigation series?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think for me, setting has been the driving factor with any of my paranormal stories. I'm the sort of person, I live in a very old part of Ontario, in a very old town. And it's the sort of town that has like little plaques on the houses saying, so-and-so lived here, Jeremiah Smith, shipbuilder, 1812, that kind of thing. And I go for a lot of walks around. And every time I do, I'm always kind of like, that house is haunted. I wonder who haunts that place. You know, that's kind of where my mind goes. And so I'm very driven by setting. And I think I tend to always see the settings before I see anything else in my paranormal world.
Okay.
I kind of have to have a good sense of where they're coming from and what happened before, and how does that impact what they're going to do now. But yeah, absolutely. Like so many of the tools that have been mentioned, I love looking at Pinterest as well. I keep copious notes, kind of like what Anne was saying. And yeah, you have to be so detailed. I do really thorough character sketches. That seems to be, I prefer doing that over plotting, is just writing backgrounds on these characters and, you know, what are they like? What are they not like? You know, what turns them on, what doesn't? And then keeping that, you know, as you go through the series and adapting it and going forward from there. But yeah, no setting. I really have to see the place before I can do anything else, even the characters.
Is there a romance trope that you believe to be too outdated for paranormal romance audiences?
So my answer is no. I don't think there's anything that's outdated. However, yes, certain tropes can feel tired the way they're told if they're retold in the same way. But I think creative authors can find new ways to use the same tropes and tell new and interesting stories because the characters are new and interesting, you know? That's kind of how I think.
Okay, that's fair. I would think that some of these comments are by people reading maybe authors who are less skilled in the craft of taking existing tropes, existing characteristics and making them fresh and unique. That's probably what some, you know.
Right.
So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Celestine.
I would have to agree. I would say that it's like the chosen one, right? Usually the chosen one is some type of ingenue. They're on the younger teenage side. Give me a 42-year-old chosen one. Give me one whose life has not gone right. I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, you want me to save the world? I have to go to Costco and get groceries. Just to change it up, right? To freshen up, because there are certain things that are overdone because they keep doing it the same way.
Exactly.
And so I feel like if you have the tropes and you take the tropes out of their familiar space and trying something new, that'll be fine. It's like, let's say, an ingredient, right? You have corn. Everyone likes corn on the cob. It's all right, but put corn on a pizza. Okay. I'm intrigued.
I don't know about that, but
right? Like, I'm intrigued. I'll try half a slice, but you got me interested, right? So I feel that way too. Like, change it up. Let the tropes some new life and take them to places that they haven't been before. Rethink them.
Rosanna, Anne, do you have anything to weigh in on paranormal tropes? Are there any that you think are kind of should be retired? Do you think there's some that some new ones that should sprout up?
I don't know about retiring them because I think like the others have already said so well, author voice has so much to do with how fresh something can sound as well. And, you know, how many times have we told the Cinderella story? How many times, you know, have we told some of those other classics? But, you know, you bring in a new writer who kind of gives it a different slant, puts it in a different world, and it feels fresh and new. So yeah, I wouldn't want to retire them because you never know what you're missing.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
Vampires are still around. They're one of the oldest.
Right.
They're still around. People are still finding new ways to, you know, change it up, you know?
Yes, that's a really good point. Anne, anything to add?
Everyone is correct in that we can't say something is done because not everyone has had a chance to tell those stories.
Yeah.
White writers have told a lot of stories, but there are a lot of tropes that will get new life from writers of color, and those stories absolutely need to be told. We need to see all the tropes from all the writers who want a crack at them. So I think calling anything over is definitely premature because we haven't gotten all the stories that we need to get. And the world will be richer once those stories are available for us to enjoy.
Based on your interactions with paranormal romance readers, presumably ones who have read your work, what have you gleaned about their reading tastes and preferences?
I was thinking of a few of my readers and conversations that we've had about my latest series, because there are some scary moments in it, and moments that I think are creepy and might hopefully stick with someone. I had one of my readers tell me I had to keep a nightlight on after I read the first book, and I was like, wow, really? But I think what I've understood from a lot of those conversations is that for paranormal readers, I think there are folks who really enjoy the cozy paranormals, and also some who like things with maybe a bit more of an edge, a bit more of a scare factor, maybe the darker stuff. And the two don't necessarily always mix, so I've tried very hard to kind of temper some of my darker, inclinations as I'm writing these things, because I know people will. I'm not trying to scare the romance readers. I'm hoping it will draw in readers who maybe like a little bit of a scare and a little bit of a romance, that kind of thing. So, that's what I've noticed, is that you can take it too far for some of our lovely readers.
Well, and I think that's what's really cool about the paranormal genre. Like anything, there's, even like contemporary, there's a wide range. It's not just like one size fits all, you can have rom-commy, like my Stay a Spell it's more rom-commy and it's more romance focused than paranormal. Like I think one of my early criticisms was I thought this was paranormal, because like the magic was very light. But I purposefully wrote it that way, and they're on the sexy side and very lots of contemporary things, like music and stuff that's involved. But then you can have the dark romance, the dark paranormal romance lovers, you can have stuff for them as well. And I think there's such a wide range now, which is great, that we're not being sort of pigeonholed into this. All paranormal is the one chosen, delightful girl in the front with a ball of light coming from her, like that's not what the genre is anymore, But, and I think we're getting to be more mainstream. I felt that so I was at Steamy LitCon this past August in Anaheim, and which was a fabulously run book con, just FYI. But I was on the panel for paranormal authors. Y'all, the room was packed. It was like 200 something, and they had to stop letting people in because it was over full. There was no more room. And that was exciting. And they were all excited. Like, I mean, oftentimes the paranormal genre is the one, we're in the little itty bitty room with a couple of people hanging out, but no, there were, tons of readers that were so excited, just about the genre and about monsters, and all the crazy stuff. Like they love it. And so I think that's really positive for our genre in general, that, 10 years ago, we were like on the fringe, and now we're becoming more mainstream, which I think is great,
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say for mine, they love the coming back of fairy tales, the retelling of fairy tales through different lenses, also different witches. We're seeing, especially in the last couple of years, we're seeing more diverse witches come through.
Yeah.
So I know that's been good. Also the coziness, especially with everything going on in the world, people have been really gravitating to like cozy, light paranormal, not so much it's the end of the world if we don't mate. No. It's like low stakes but high emotion romance, especially paranormal, and just having a place where you can come enjoy the magic without those big stressors. I know for me, I love writing a slow burn. Like I'm a big fan of like slow burn. And so a lot of the readers are just, I just want something that just feels like a cup of tea. It feels like and so that's something I will say, because I remember early in paranormal, it was always those high stakes, right? Oh my gosh, we don't do this, the world will end. If we don't do that, the world ends. People are like, no. Let's go. Let's like have a range where if you want the world will end, you can have it. If you want your dark fantasy, you can have it. You want your like paranormal, you have it. And so it's nice to see readers just like enjoying all of it. And so that's what I've noticed from Something cozy, comforting.
During the pandemic, it seems like there was the rise in paranormal rom-coms, which we can all guess why that is. But that was something that I found. I was like, wow, yeah, before this, paranormal really, you didn't really see paranormal rom-coms so much. And now there's a lot more of them. And you're like, oh, it makes sense. But anything cozy, I think across the board has in general been, as of late, well received. Yeah.
I literally wrote "Don't Hex and Drive" during the quarantine. Like that was what I wrote, and it's funny because I know some of my friends were having trouble writing, but I loved escaping to "Don't Hex and Drive." It's like, because it was just funny and fun and, and sexy and like light,
Yeah. So absolutely. Yeah. And based on your interactions with your readers, what have you learned about their reading tastes and preferences when it comes to paranormal?
They seem to basically divide along the lines of spice. Some prefer the really cozy paranormal that are not very explicit, and then some want really freaky stuff, and that's where monster and alien romance comes in. I don't think the two can necessarily be written in the same book, but I do have something for everyone. So if they don't like column A, there's something in column B for them. I write a lot of different types of books.
Yes. As a matter of fact, Anne, one of your books, Strangelove, was so praised by one of my book clubbers that a number of us read it and all equally enjoyed it. So I just want to let you know. Now, I know that falls more under like sci-fi, alien, romance. But I had to mention to you that this book clubber, every time we got together, because I have a in-person romance book club in Columbus, Ohio. And every time we came in, no matter what we were talking, she's like, you have to read Strangelove.
I'm so happy to hear that. That book has been the little book that could. I wrote it basically to please myself, and I sent it to newsletter subscribers as a serial. And then when I finished it, I polished it up and put it out because why not? And it has had the most legs of anything I've ever written. People just wreck it and wreck it and wreck it. And that's just delightful because it's such a cute little book.
Yes, it is. Let's try to divine the future. Okay. And let's look towards paranormal romance of 2024. So let's make our predictions of what that's going to look like. A lot of what we've experienced in recent years, or do you think something new might take over?
I'm thinking aliens.
You think more aliens?
Gonna have some more aliens.
I
feel it in my bones because you see a lot of people, the youngins now that the youngins are rediscovering X-Files and they're rediscovering all that stuff, and conspiracy theories are big, unfortunately. But then we get the rise of aliens. I think that's going to happen, and people wanting to feel like they want to get off the planet. So rise of aliens.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, especially with news stories as of late about the government revealing different things about knowing about beings from other planets and all that, and our relationship to them. Rosanna, do you have any predictions for 2024?
I still see a lot of monster romance crossing my timeline when I'm scrolling, and I don't see any sign of it letting up. I don't know if there's going to be anything new because, you never know where someone's mind is going to take us. All I know is that I would like it to all stay just as popular as it is now, even more popular. Please keep buying paranormal romance, whatever kind you want. But the monsters are everywhere I look. So, and I'm seeing a lot of writers who maybe don't write paranormal saying I might want to take a stab at paranormal.
Isn't that funny? We're finally luring them to the dark side. I love that.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that it seems like there are more authors now willing to make to try out something new like paranormal that's normally not in their wheelhouse. And it seems like you said, Rosanna, that the gateway is monster romance. So it's interesting that would be the thing that intrigues authors or writers enough that like, oh, maybe I'll try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I think I agree with Rosanna. I was thinking that too. Monsters, I don't think they're going away anytime soon. I think people are mishmashing different like mythologies and stuff, to come up with things that are new and cool. And I see that fantasy is definitely going to still rise for a while, I think.
And what are your predictions for 2024 paranormal romance?
I do think that monster romance is on the rise, but I think aliens as well. I agree with Celestine. But I think that is also probably more the case for indie writers who can do whatever they want and they don't have to pass an acquisitions board with their Kraken tentacle romance. I mean, maybe we will get to a point where traditional publishing will be putting out like hentai romance type stuff, but I don't think we're quite there yet. So I have two different predictions. I think monsters and aliens are on the rise in the indie world. In traditional publishing, I think it's going to be vampires and fae that are going to be ascendant.
I agree with that.
I second.
Wow. Excellent. I look forward to checking in with everybody again next year. We'll do this panel again, same people, and we're going to go over what we discussed now.
Absolutely.
Going to see how good we were at guessing the future. Let's go around and talk about what you have coming up next. Juliette, I know that you've mentioned a few times about you starting a Fae series. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that if you can?
Sure. So The Wraith King comes out January 30th, and it is the book one in the Rise of Northgall series trilogy I'm writing, and it is it's a world of light fae and dark fae, and the dark fae are what I'm calling demon fae. Some have they all have horns, but some have wings, some have tails. They're kind of a mishmash. And so I've kind of incorporated a heavy mythology of the gods that created the different kinds of fae into it. So it begins, well, I don't want to give away the beginning, but Una is the princess of the light fae, of the moon fae, and they've been at war with the Wraith King, also known as the Butcher, King Goliath, for many years. And he is at their doorstep. It begins there, where he's at their doorstep, and he's demanding to end the war if they give him her. And so we have a forced marriage. Although they don't believe in marriage. They only believe in concubines and mothers of their heirs. So it's complex. It's a very complex world. It's taken me longer to write than anything I've written in years. I'm going to be quite honest with you. It's taken me a very long time to write it, but I absolutely love this world. And I'm so excited to share it with readers. So
well, your excitement is palpable. So I am excited as well. Awesome. Celestine, what do you have coming up next? I would imagine yours would be 2024. Right?
2024, we're closing up the Elemental Love series, last bit of my witches. So my last witch, knock on wood. I'm like, I've gotten it's in the trilogy. This is my Return of the Jedi. So that's literally on my desktop right now. Everyone has grabbing hands for it. So that's going to be in 2024, and then coming up with a new series. Like, I've got so many ideas. It's like my Pinterest board is in shambles. It's like, do I want to vampire?
I'm going to start sending you some things, Celestine, just to throw you off, just to get you going.
Like, listen, my age is going to be like, oh, great, more ideas.
Here, write this, do this. This needs something.
Yes, but absolutely. So just come up with just doing some brainstorming, reading a lot of books, and just trying to figure out like what's the idea. Like, I've got a couple ideas. I'm like, no, I can't. Maybe I can. So it's
you can do it.
Oh, yes, I'm very excited.
And what do you have coming up next?
I am currently writing another alien romance,
Nice.
and it's called Steal the Stars. It will be out in 2024. It is an indie, and it's a first contact romance. It's a little bit bigger in scope. It's more like a cross section of like a science fiction epic, but it also has romance in it. I'm calling it a sci-fi romance because the romance is every bit as important as all the science fiction stuff, but it is bigger than Strangelove in terms of scope. And since it's a first contact romance, that it takes place on Earth or in near orbit to Earth, which is something different than I have ever done. Having a blast with it. I also have a couple of secret projects and things that I cannot announce officially yet.
Okay.
But there are many cool announcements coming, so keep an eye on my socials. You'll find out soon.
Ooh, exciting.
And I'm going to go ahead and take this chance to say goodbye to everyone because I'm now at 17% and I don't want to vanish. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great time playing the game. Thank you to our host and my wonderful colleagues and authors. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you for
Good to
joining
meet
us. Rosanna, what do you have coming up next? Now, you did mention March 2024, book 3 in the Dark Paranormal Investigators. Do you have, if you could tell us more about that or anything else you have coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm hoping to reveal the cover soon. So please stay attuned to my socials as well. I'm just waiting for things to fall into place. But I've had a look at it and I'm excited. So book 3, Dark Homecoming, is coming out March 12th, 2024. And that'll be the final book in the Dark Paranormal Investigations. Okay. And I've actually been writing a few different stories as well. Like Celestine, I've got my hands in a few pots and I'm not really sure which pot I want to dig deep on just yet. Okay. I've been contemplating a paranormal ghostly series that's a little bit more on the cozy side, and I'm just starting to plot that out. But I've also done some work on shapeshifters.
Ooh.
Our old friends.
Always good. Always
in the
good.
Paranormal world who refuse to go away. Just for fun, I started writing a shapeshifter story a while back, and was really getting a kick out of it. So I might have to let that one float and see how I feel about it. But yeah, a couple of projects up in the air right now.
Exciting. Can you share what kind of a shifter, or is that?
I could. It's going to be a hellhound.
Yes. I like that. I'm already into it.
I hope it works out that way. I'm still mulling a few things over, but yeah.
Okay.
I've been reading a little bit. The history behind hellhounds, if you look at the legends, they're very sketchy. There's not a lot out there. So I thought it might be fun to fill in some of the blanks. We'll see.
Interesting. Okay. Well, good luck to you all.
Thank you.
It's time to play Match Game Paranormal Romance Edition. So I have prepared fill in the blank statements pertaining to paranormal romance. And you are to fill in the blank. And if your answer matches any of your fellow panelists, then you get a point. If you match with me, you get 2 points. Here we go. Aspiring paranormal romance author Liz Donatelli was having trouble writing sex scenes between her ghost protagonists. Every time they touched, their blank would disappear. Their blank would disappear. All right, let's see. All right, give me a thumbs up when you're ready to reveal your answer. Okay, let us reveal our answer.
That's so difficult.
Oh my God, I was going to say hands. I swear to God, I was going to say hands.
You can't see mine says fingers. I'm closest to Celestine.
What did you put, Juliette?
Fingers. I don't know if
fingers and hands. I'll accept that. What did you put, Rosanna?
I'd like to also say mine's written in lipstick because I forgot a pen and it says plasma.
Oh, that works though. Plasma. You going right for the gore. And oh man, if I would have said hands, then you guys would have both gotten 2 points. All right. So, but we're off to a good start. So it sounds like you each get 1 point. Saying Juliette is 1 point, 1 point. Rosanna is 0. Liz.
Oh man.
Okay. All right. Okay. Here's the next. See, I should have gone with hands. All right. Here's the next one. Loose Lips Sink Cruise Ships is a new paranormal romance about a mer person and a blank who fall in love on an Alaskan cruise. A mer person and a blank. Loose Lips Sink Cruise Ships. is the name of that romance?
Going broad. I'm going rogue.
Oh, goodness.
Cruise ship. Wait, who said they're going broad?
I'm going.
Okay. Then I'm gonna put.
Yeah, no one's gonna get this, but this is the only thing I can think of.
I think I got it.
If you're gonna go broad, I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So thumbs up when you have your answer. Okay. Let's reveal. I said the captain.
Oh,
That sea captain.
oh man.
Would you put Juliette?
I can't. This keeps this like a polar bear shifter.
The
I like
werewolf.
werewolf.
That's a really good idea. And a werewolf. Interesting. A werewolf in a maritime setting.
Well, you think about Alaska. You have Midnight Sun.
Oh yeah.
Oh. You know
He's
that's
on the
why I
cruise.
thought
He's on
right.
vacation.
We're shaking things up, Liz, with the tropes.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah. See, now this is a good exercise to take you into 2024. Just FYI.
Yeah.
So Rosanna, you get 2 points because you matched with me. Okay, next one. In Liz Donatelli's paranormal romance retelling of Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Alice embarks on a romance with blank. Everyone, thumbs up when you are ready. All right. So who does Alice embark on a romance with? I put
Mad Hatter.
Me.
Me and Celestine are thinking the same.
All right. I almost put
Oh.
Mad Hatter and I changed it to the Queen of
I'm
Hearts.
sorry you
I was-
can't read my.
I was going to change it to a Queen of Hearts. I was like, oh, Sapphic twist.
I almost did Cheshire Cat, and I was like, no, that's a little too out there. Let's go.
Cheshire Cat.
Shifter.
Okay, so let's see. So the Mad Hatters was Juliette and Celestine, right? So you each get 1. What did you put, Rosanna, again?
I wrote a toadstool.
A toadstool. So wait, but a toadstool, that's not a bee. Oh, you mean like a magical toadstool that comes alive?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
gotcha.
exactly what I meant.
Okay. Is it really, or did you just say that because I said that? Okay.
I totally just said it because you did.
Okay, so that means, all right. So right now we've got a tie game, 2-2-2. Each of you got 2 points. Okay.
Okay.
Next one. Oh, this one is good. Have you heard? Magical furniture is all the rage in paranormal romance fiction. In fact, only one flying blank is a new trope. Magical furniture, only one flying blank. I'm going to go with this because I think. Okay, is everyone ready to reveal?
Yeah.
Okay, I put a flying bed.
Me too.
Ooh, Juliette, and you put a fainting couch. Good, and a flying
Good chair.
All legit answers, but Juliette matched with me, so Juliette gets 2 points. So she is taking the lead. Okay. Paranormal romances featuring fictional, non-human company mascots has taken publishing by storm. The forbidden love story between Jolly Green Giant and blank has made it onto the USA Today bestseller list. The forbidden. Oh, I know what I'm going to put. All right, let me know when everyone is ready for this. Okay, we ready for the reveal? All right, who did Jolly Green Giant have a forbidden love affair with?
The golden swan. I couldn't think of, or the golden goose, whatever it was.
Wait, isn't that flower? The swan? Wait.
The golden. I was thinking of the story of the green of the. I was thinking Jack and the Beanstalk, y'all. That's what.
Oh, well, it had to be a company mascot. But I think that the swan, Great Swan or something, is like a brand of flower. I think.
Oh, is it?
I thought it was right. I don't know. It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Okay. I totally missed this one.
That's okay.
Sorry.
You're in the lead. So
Miss
you can afford
Butterworth.
I got Pillsbury. Mrs. Butterworth actually is I like that answer.
That's very good.
And now, what company mascot is a gargoyle?
It's not. I was thinking of
Okay.
what Celestine said earlier about gargoyles, and that
Gargoyles,
was the
okay.
first thing that popped into my head.
Okay, so Pillsbury Doughboy and well, you know what? You could though consider writing a romance about Mrs. Butterworth and Jolly Green Giant. That could be interesting.
I would like to see that.
Think about it.
Time.
Okay, so no points were awarded on that one. All right, we've got one more. Got one more. All right. According to Book Talk, the must-read erotic monster romance is titled 9 Lives and 3 Blank. I'm gonna say, ooh, geez. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if this works. All right, are you ready to reveal 9 Lives, 3 what? I said 3 Tales.
Oh, I said tentacles. Does that count?
Okay.
Oh, she had tails.
Can I just say that I was going to write breasts?
Oops.
Again, I was going to write breasts and I changed
Total
it.
recall.
I feel like we're feeding each other, but we're each rejecting the other's answer psychically. Okay, so I'm going to have to say, I don't know, what I'm going to let Celestine decide. Because do you think tails and tentacles would be the same thing?
Well, maybe I get a half a point.
Honestly, I'm gonna say yes.
You're gonna say yes? Okay.
But they're appendages. So
okay. Okay. So that means that both Rosanna and Juliette get 2 points each because they matched with me. Juliette has 6 points and Rosanna has 4.
Nice.
Juliette, you won.
Yay!
And Celestine, you would have won. if I had just
she'd gone with her first
next
instinct.
year.
Next year, yes. Everyone, next year we do it again. And thank you so much for joining me, Anne, Juliette, Rosanna, and Celestine. Thank you so much for spending your time here with me on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thank you. I enjoyed it so much.
So much fun.
Yes, absolutely.